Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Auction for the Soul. This week's Parsha is Parshat Terumah, and we left off last week with an amazing, one of the most, for me at least, one of the most amazing stories that are told in the actual Torah itself. The idea that the Jewish people were able to stand at Mount Sinai and receive this wondrous communication from the divine. No more uncertainty, no more doubt. We know for sure that there's a God. He communicated with humanity, and so on and so forth. Now, the Jewish people receive the Ten Commandments, okay? And then right afterwards, you have the laws, and then you have Parshat Terumah. And the Parsha begins with as follows. It says, V'yidaber Hashem el Moshe le'emor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'yikhu li terumah. Right? I want you to go ahead and take for me this trumah. Me'et kol ish asher yidavenu libo v'tikhu et trumati. I want you to speak to the Israelites, speak to the Jewish people, take for me a truma, a contribution, from every single man, asher yidavenu libo, right? From every man whose heart, he has a desire. Tikhu et trumati, take by truma. Now, we've heard this before, right? What does it mean, v'yikhu li truma? God saying, I'm going to take it from them. Like, don't we want people that want to give it willingly, offering it? Right? This truma, this idea of making some kind of a contribution, making a donation, giving your money. It sounds like you're taking it. V'yikhu li says, I will take it. When the pasuk should say, v'tikhu li, right? Sorry, not v'tikhu. It says v'yitnu li. It should say, right? Let them give it to me. Instead, it says v'yikhu li. So the question is, why does the Torah talk about giving when what it really wants to do is it wants to be receiving, right? We want people to give as a independent act versus a act of forcing them. Pasuk sounds like we got to take it. This is the famous famous question on this pasuk. So there's all kinds of interesting answers. Now there's one in particular that I like that I want to share with you today. There's a Gemara in Kiddushin that says when a woman gives a gift to a very wealthy, distinguished person, okay, that particular act of her giving him this gift can serve as a vehicle to allow the Kiddushin to be chal, which means like this. Typically, a man gives a gift to the woman, it's the ring, and through that act of giving, of her receiving, that's what sanctifies the actual wedding, okay, concretizes the wedding. But the Gemara says over here, if a woman is marrying someone very, very distinguished or very, very super wealthy, and he agrees that, that she wants to give him something, it's okay, it works. Even though the pasuk says ki yikach ish isha, typically, it is something that is done where a man gives it to a woman. Over here, a woman can go ahead and provide for her husband. And the question is why? Typically, the verse makes it very clear that a man has to go ahead and take her. And the way we say taking is through the offering of some kind of financial arrangement. Okay, now, if for this distinguished person, he has a willingness to accept her gifts because it brings her pleasure, that she could be in a position to do something for him, and therefore it's considered to have been a situation where he gave her something in return. There's always going to be, in every relationship, there's going to be a giver and a taker, or a nicer way of saying that is a provider and a receiver, same idea. You have a scenario here where you are able to go ahead and now create a scenario where he is able to receive from her as an act of his desire to give her something, which is her ability to give to him. And therefore, similarly, when the Torah describes the donation of the Mishkan with the verb of take, v'yikach, it's because God is willing to accept the Jewish people's donations. God is infinite. You think he needs our money? He doesn't need our money. He has everything. It's all God's. Everything is God's, right? So the donations are irrelevant to God. So God creates a space, because he's the distinguished person, where he creates a space where we can participate with him and give something to him. He doesn't need us, right? We add that giving to God for the sake of causing his Shekhinah to dwell among us, right? Is not giving at all. Right? But it's something more than that. Our gifts don't benefit God anyway. When a person gives a donation to the Mishkan, we honor God, right? A person's property is blessed as a result of his donation. And therefore, taking is really for his own sake. And that's why we call it taking. We're doing this for ourselves. We want that relationship with Borei Olam. We want to bring him down here. We want the bracha of having the closeness to him, not the other way around. So the pasuk says that the pasuk says it very clearly that you shall take. Okay, great. So that's how we deal with that. So God is asking us to be involved, but at the same time, He wants to create a space where we can go ahead and be in a position where we're creating a system where we're able to provide. Great. Now, the question is, as the Pesukim keep going, it says, Daber el bnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people, asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. I want you to go ahead and make me a holy sanctuary so that I can dwell among them. Lots of ink has been spilled on this particular verse, and I want to kind of show, I want to share with you another way of understanding this. So Pasuk says that God wants us to partner with Him, right? We're going to make Him an offering, and so that God can dwell with us. Now, the Jewish people needed a method for meeting with God. The idea of making God a mikdash on two levels. One is a physical space where God can go ahead and dwell in, and a secondary space is where God can dwell within ourselves. You have a physical space, and then you have a personal space. That's why it says, "V'shechanti b'tocham," I'm going to dwell in them. What are the them? The physical space that the Jewish people create, but more, just as important, the space that we create God in our hearts. Remember, God is wherever we let Him in. So the Jewish people need a method for going ahead and encountering and experience the divine. But what was the Mishkan actually accomplishing? How is it going to accomplish this? Right? Maybe there's some other way that the Torah could have communicated God's ratzon. Why do we need an actual structure? Okay, so let's do it like this, right? We need to know what happened before this command. Okay, so the essence of there's a famous machloka between the Ramban and Rashi as to whether or not yesh mukdam u'muchar Torah, does the Torah come out in chronological order? And we're told that some people say that the Mishkan came out right after the revelation of Mount Sinai, and others say no, that the idea of making the Mishkan came out right after Chet HaEgel, so either after the golden calf or ever revelation. Now, the Zohar, by the way, says that the events are in chronological order, and in order to understand the logical sequence of the events of Mount Sinai, it goes like this. The Mishkan is a recreation of the spiritual, transcendental experience that the Jewish people had at Mount Sinai, okay, in real time, tangible, physical space. Therefore, the Mishkan served as a unique way to recreate the giving of the Torah within space. This way, they could carry that experience with them wherever they go. How often, do we find ourselves in a position where we have experience that we can't hold on to? The Ramban's opinion, right, is that this massive experience of Matan Torah was what happened before, and therefore we needed a mobile vehicle for the physical world to allow this experience to come with us. Okay, we had this tremendous spiritual awakening. We received the Torah, its laws. This is a transformative experience, and through all of this, we were commanded to create a receptacle where this inspiration could be kept alive, where this inspiration can be accessed. This Mishkan served as a place where all that we had received could be contained in there. We could reconnect. Now imagine living in a world where you had a Mishkan and you literally saw a fire coming down from heaven, burning up the korbanot. There was no denying that there was a God when the Mishkan was around. It was super clear to everybody that something unique transformed the Jewish people throughout the desert and throughout their time in Israel with the temple and the Mishkan itself. Now, we know that in life, we often find ourselves in a situation where we are overwhelmed with something emotionally inspired. But how easy is it for us to forget it? How easy is it for us to be in a situation where, we are unable to experience those memories, those feelings. And therefore, what the Torah is telling us is sometimes when something is so important to us, you got to figure out a way of putting it into something else so you could access it later. So sometimes if when someone feels a very deep love for someone, right? You buy them a jewelry, you buy them a photo, a portrait, you do something as a tangible expression of that gift. And therefore, when that person sees it, they're recreating and being able to reestablish that feeling at a much, much later time. And that is what the Mishkan's focus was. The Mishkan was a gift object born out of our unique affection, desire to create a vessel where we could put all the love and the commitment that we had for God into it, right? It was a physical embodiment of the spiritual experience at Mount Sinai. So that we have the power of literally turning on, turning off, tapping into this tremendous, profound experience that we had at Har Sinai. The energy that was there was unparalleled. And I would always want to have access to that kind of experience. So we talk about, the Ramban, right? The Ramban says that the Mishkan came after the Egel HaZahav. Rashi says that it came after Matan Torah, and this is why he's saying that, right? So you have two different opinions over here. According to the Ramban, he says the Mishkan came after the golden calf, and therefore the sequence of events were that the golden calf happened right after Mount Sinai, and the Mishkan came after the golden calf. Rashi says it didn't work like that exactly. You had the Matan Torah, you had the Mishkan, and then you had the golden calf. So, which means that according to one opinion, according to Rashi, the reason why you have according to the Ramban, the reason why you have the Mishkan was really to atone for the sin of the golden calf. What are you doing all day? What are you doing all day all day? You're bringing up all kinds of offerings. Now, I think that the Parshat Terumah is really kind of getting at the core of the things that you and I do every day, which is we go to work, and we often go to work because we're trying to make a parnasa. We go to work so we get paid, hopefully in gold. Right now, gold is trading at like $3,000 an ounce, something around there, 2,800, 2,900, very close to 3,000. And we put our sweat and blood and tears so that we could take something home that is meaningful, right? But all too often we find ourselves in a situation where we forget exactly why we're doing what we're doing. The job itself becomes the primary function of everything that I'm doing, when in reality the job itself is really an opportunity to invest in the development of the self. How do we reconnect to these emotions? How do we reconnect to this idea, these truths that we've figured out in our own world? It's simple. We create things that allow us to we're able to pull out those emotions out of it again. That's what we want over here. Torah is telling us that you have to create a space. Vasuli mikdash v'shechanti betocham. I will dwell in them as long as your heart is focused on the right things. Because the nature of a human being is to get lost into the material. The nature of a human being is to kind of get distracted and sidetracked. The nature of a human being is to be lazy and slow. We're in the month of Adar. Tonight we're going to is Rosh Chodesh Adar. It is a month of miracles, the month of all things flipping and happening, and so on and so forth. This was a last couple of years since October 7th was super difficult. We walked away with a lot of pain, and hopefully it transformed us into something much, much more. If we don't carry on and hold on to these experiences, they'll be lost in the annals of history. Where do we bury those emotions today? You could do in your tefillah, in your prayer, find some words that you could put those emotions in. But there is no reality where you succeed as a human being in your unique mission if you're not developing and growing the self. And therefore, Mishpatim isn't just, Terumah is not just a story about vessels. It's a reminder of how we need to invest in creating things of meaning and importance for ourselves. Don't allow just to be the material things. Make sure you're investing in things that are also able to draw down spirituality. How do I think about it? My Shabbat table is a Mishkan. It's an altar, right? The Divrei Torah that I share at my table is like the menorah. The bread, lechem hapanim, is the amazing chalot that my wife makes. we're able to recreate a mikdash ma'at, but it starts with v'shechanti b'tocham. You first got to feel it in your heart and make it real. When we do, my friends, at Hashem, we bring Mashiach b'mehera b'yameinu. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom Avrach. Thank you so much for listening.